Hey, this is Professor Homo. Welcome to EX9 Part 3. And where we are here is working on the nav part of our CSS for our media query. And what we're going to do is, again, go up to our CSS. We don't have to rewrite this stuff. We could use what we have. And the last thing we did was address bar, where we only changed the padding. Remember, if you don't change something, it'll just stay what its original is. So what I'm going to do is I'll copy all the nav stuff here. And, if we have too much, we'll delete it. So I'm going to copy all my nav styles and delete what I don't want. And I'll take them down and put them after header here. And here's all my nav styles. So let's take a look at these and see what we need and what we don't. Nav left, that's kind of our main, remember that's the ID of our main nav. So that's our whole section there for nav. So it has a padding of 16. And I think what I'll do with this is I think I'll put a padding of 0. Because I think I'm going to put the padding around the individual buttons. So I'm going to put 0 here, and that's fine. And then float, I'm going to put none. Even though it is kind of going to the left, I'm just going to put none for now, because I want to remove the float. Okay, so that's all I need there. The UL, list style none, it's not going to go back. Remember, what does list style none do? It actually takes away the bullet in the list. So I don't need this. I don't need this whole rule. If it's not going to change, don't need it. So I'm going to delete nav left. UL. I don't need the UL. How about margin top? Actually, margin top is what's creating this space. And I don't want this space, especially if we're going to be viewing it on portrait. I don't want all that extra space. So I'm going to say margin top 0. I'm going to put that to 0 too and wipe that out. Now that runs it all together, which is good. Okay? Now, but also what we're going to do is we're going to start focusing on our links, and that's where we have a lot of our properties here in the link. Okay, so these things we didn't have to do much to, but the links we're going to adjust. And a couple things, we're going to leave it as block. The width we're definitely going to change. We don't want a set width of 192. We could actually put in, if we want, we could put in 100%. That should make it go across the page, so that's fine. Background color is not going to change. Delete. Padding might change. Color is not going to change. So if it's not going to change, you could delete it. Text decoration, text transform, font weight, font size, I may change that. I may make it a little bigger. Because we had it 0.9. I might just go and just make it 1em. Because remember, if you don't put anything, it's going to stay its original. So I'm going to make it a little bigger. And then for this part in here, for the padding, I'm going to change this from pixels to percents. Now sometimes you just have to mess around with this to see what percents are. And I think I was working, remember when you have two of these, it means the first one is top and bottom, the second one is left and right. And I think I was looking at 5% for each left and right. And you can see how that lines up okay. So we're going to use 5%. You can just try it. I mean, you don't have to, get your calculator out and figure out all kinds of math, although sometimes you will if you have multiple columns. But for this, just see how it looks. 5% looks okay. If you want it a little less, make it a little less. And then I'm also going to go padding here, top and bottom. I even want it a little tighter. I don't need it. So I don't want 5%. I might make it like 2%. That might work okay. Actually, it looks a little too much. So I may make it 1%. Remember, it's 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. And if you need to make it less, make it 0.8. That's fine. I don't want to have a lot of vertical space anyway, so as little as you could put, even 0.7. See how that looks? That's fine. Okay, so we could do that. 0.7 for percent above and below, and then 5% on the sides. Now we're only really seeing this side, so that looks fine for our nav. How about the hover? One thing I mentioned, because right now for our hover, if I go on this page, you can see just the text changes color, and I don't even know if I need the text changing color. I could actually go back and make the text change white. I could just put FFF and make it be white. And I am going to change the background color. I'm going to put background color, and I'll make that be like a solid color. So I'll choose background color. And I'm not sure what I want to use, but I think I just want to use like a dark blue. So usually what I'll do in brackets is just put a 000 and then right click on it, do quick edit, and choose original blue. That way if you choose a darker one, it's kind of in the family. So I'll choose the blue we're using for the background and then just go a little darker. And that's probably fine. I mean, you could use something, a completely different scheme if you want to make it really stand out. But I'm just going to use a dark blue for now. I'll go up a little bit and see how it looks. And remember, just hit the X and it'll choose that dark blue. And then go over here and try it out. That looks fine. If you want anything that looks a little more noticeable, feel free to change it. But that's fine for now. certainly if you're visiting the dentist site, that'll help you through it. Okay, so that's all I'm doing for the navigation part. Let's check out the rest. What's coming up next is this section part. I'm just going to scroll down and see what's happening. Picture, we just may have to fix centering the picture. We have a little issue with the section because I think we have a size specified, so we have to change the size because you can see what's happening here. Things are getting cut off there. So I'm going to go adjust the section part. I'll scroll up here, look for section main. I won't have to copy the P, the H1, any of that stuff. Just section main is all I'm going to need from my main styles. So I'm just going to copy this part and go back down here in my media query, and I'll eliminate the space there, and there's an extra space in here. And they have width 398. I'm going to make that 100%. Okay, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put the padding of, I'm just going to do 5%. I'm going to do 5% all around. So I'm going to do 5%. Now, what happens here with the padding of 5%, we still have a little issue here of coming over. So what I'm actually going to do, well, I actually have to do a float none too. So make sure I take off the float. Okay, there's the float. So I still have a little bit of space here that I need to deal with. I'm going to put 5% padding and float none. What I'm going to do for width, because if I have 5%, if I have 5% on each side, I'm only going to have 90% in the middle. So I'm going to change my middle width to be 90%. And what that should do is delete that little gap we have there. Although we still have a gap here. Let's see, that's the nav. I think we're going to have to fix that. We have an issue with the nav. And I think if because we have a 5% there, I think we might have to change this to 90 as well. I think that should fix our problem, I think. Although no, that's not fixing it. Except I put in 190%. Let me put in 90% and see if that fixes the issue, and it does. So keep in mind that when you put in percents for padding, you have to be aware of how much the width is, because if you have 100% width and then you have 5% padding, that makes it like 110%. So that's why these things here, and remember, this is padding on all sides, so this is really 10% on right and left. So that means it's, that's why it goes to, same thing here. This is 5% on right and left. This is 5% right and left. So that's 10%. That's where we get the 90%. Okay, 90% minus the 5 and 5. So now it looks okay over here. The only thing we have to do, now we don't like PA in there. We could put a non-breaking space after PA. We could go our index and do that real quick. That's a little, that's a quick fix-it thing, but we could put that in there. That's actually not in the header, that's in our content. And again, just put in right after the comma, just put a ampersand NB, and then it should come up so you could kind of find it. And you can see what that did. It broke it down here. And you could do that any place that you want to keep things together. Okay, so back to my CSS. Last thing we have here, I guess, other than some of this, is this picture. We just want to center it. So I'm going to go up and find my figure, because we didn't have it centered. So let me find my figure in my regular code. There's my figure. We should only need figure. We shouldn't need fig caption, I don't believe. So I'm just going to copy figure up here and bring this down just to make sure it's centered. And I'm going to center it just like we center our body. I'm going to try to use the margin auto. So let's see if that works, because normally you can't just center an element. I remember for body you got to put width. So I'm going to put width 260, because that's actually the width of the picture. So put the width of the picture, because you can't use margin auto if you don't do that. And then I'm going to put margin, and then I'm going to put the top and bottom, which might be, I don't know, 1%, something like that. We could try that. And then I'm going to put auto, which should center it in the middle. But remember, whenever you use margin auto, auto puts auto margin on either side of it. So it usually ends up centering block elements. But you need a width, so you need to specify width. So I specified the width of the picture in there. So that kind of fixed it. And the fig caption went along with it, so I didn't have to do anything with that. So that should, that should keep this thing centered. We get to this point, and this is where, even at this point it kind of looks like that, but it's not that bad. And we don't assume people are going to, unless they're on an iPad or something, but we're kind of targeting to phone right here. So that's what we're dealing with. And that looks okay centered. We could have made it left, but it looks fine centered. Also down here we have some margin issue that we have to deal with in that part. So let me go down and just fix I'm I'm going to go back up to my regular CSS, and just be careful as you're scrolling. It's easy to get lost. That's why I put this big line in here. I'm going to go down to the footer nav bottom, and I'm just looking at the whole element here. So I'm going to highlight footer, and I'll copy it, and I'll go down here. And it says margin top 16 pixels. I don't know, maybe I could just do 1em or something, because that's about the same. Or maybe I'll put 1em for now for margin top. And then also I'm going to put some padding on the side of this. I'll just put padding. Or I could align it left too. I could align this stuff left if it looks weird center. Because I have a line. Maybe I'll make it left and see how that looks. That looks okay, but we need a little padding in here, so I'm gonna adjust the padding. And I'm not going to do any padding on the top. I already have a margin on the top. So I'll just put 0. And then for left and right, I guess I'll do 5%. And see how that looks. And that looks okay. It's lining up with everything else. And like I said, if we put non-breaking spaces in here, we could keep some of these things from breaking up so they're still readable, like dental health or whatever. But you know, it's hard. We'd have to find almost every word and put a non-breaking space, because you know, there's patient cosmetic treatments. No matter how small it gets, we're not really at even 320 yet, so it could get a little bit smaller here. But like dental health, contact us, we could put non-breaking spaces in between there. But I think for now, I think we're pretty good. Let me save this, and I'll just see where we're at. This may be the end, or we may have to continue a little bit.